Muammar Gaddafi was the man who could unite Africa and end the West's dominance forever. Thus, for the West, he had to be eliminated. A massive operation was launched, where NATO attacked Libya and used rebels to overthrow and then kill Gaddafi. Everything went as planned. Everything was successful in the very first attempt. However, when it comes to the revolutionary leader and president of Burkina Faso, the West has failed tens of times. There were coups and assassination attempts, but Ibrahim Traore survived and has now become the West's biggest threat. But why? Why does the West fear Traore so much, even more than Muammar Gaddafi? In this video, let's break it down to change the way you think about Traore. Let's get started. If the Western playbook had a delete button, it would be Ibrahim Traore, because nothing about his rise fits the mold imperial powers are used to controlling. He doesn't seek validation from the IMF or flirt with American think tanks. He doesn't wear imported suits or perform the global puppet dance for donor money. And most terrifying of all for the West, he doesn't need them. His mandate doesn't come from Brussels, Washington, or Paris. It comes from the red soil of Burkina Faso. From the moment he emerged in October 2022, Captain Traore wasn't just a soldier with a gun. He was a young man with a vengeance on behalf of a betrayed generation who watched their villages burn while foreign-trained generals sat in air-conditioned offices signing counterinsurgency deals that delivered no peace. His predecessor, Paul-Henri Damiba, was the final straw. Backed by the same old Western ties, Damiba failed to secure the nation and quickly lost the faith of the people. But when Traore stepped in, he didn't wait for permission. He ripped up military agreements with France, expelled so-called security advisors, and slammed the door on AFRICOM before they could even get a foot in. He knew the game, and he refused to play it. However, after doing so, while most leaders isolated themselves behind bulletproof glass and foreign guards, Traore moved differently. He stepped into markets, stood with farmers, rallied with youth, and listened to the wounded North. He didn't perform a revolution. He lived it. And in doing so, he forged an invisible armor that Western coups fear the most. A human shield made of people, not protocol. Women, elders, volunteers, students, all walking behind a captain they now call their captain. That's not populism. That's political invincibility. You see, for a Western-backed coup to work, it requires one condition above all: the isolation of the target. This is the golden rule of regime change. Muammar Gaddafi was isolated by the Arab League before NATO dropped bombs. Thomas Sankara was isolated when internal betrayal was quietly greenlit by France. Patrice Lumumba was turned into a villain by the CIA before being handed over to his murderers. In each case, the empire succeeded not because of its strength, but because the leader stood alone. But with Ibrahim Traore, that tactic has collapsed. You can't isolate a man whose image is spray-painted on alley walls and sung in village gatherings. You can't disappear a leader whose fall would bring millions to the streets, not in protest of his crimes, but in protection of his vision. From the classrooms of Bobo Dioulasso to WhatsApp groups in Ghana and Senegal, the youth no longer see Traore as just a national figure. He's becoming a Pan-African beacon, and that terrifies the architects of silence. It's why AFRICOM has shifted tone, from open warnings to vague condemnations. It's why analysts on US airwaves now question whether America should rethink its presence in the Sahel. Because every time they try to brand Traore a dictator, the response from African youth is louder than before. You mean the man who gave us land? Who kicked out the parasites? Who said our gold was ours? The head of the American military, General Langley, can't compute this. The model is broken. The lies aren't landing. Burkina Faso, once a quiet post-colonial outpost, has become the nerve center of resistance, and Traore is its spine. The more they try to assassinate his character, the more his image multiplies across borders. And without control of the narrative, Western powers are learning the one truth they never wanted to face. You cannot colonize a people who are awake. And Traore didn't wake them with slogans. He woke them with action, with dignity, with sacrifice, with a vision where Africa doesn't have to beg for the right to breathe. You see, Traore isn't simply walking away from Western control. He is building something in its place, and that's what makes him so dangerous. In January 2023, when Captain Ibrahim Traore gave France's military 30 days to vacate Burkina Faso, Paris laughed. They had heard this before, from Mali, from the Central African Republic, from countless governments who later reversed course under pressure. But 30 days later, the boots were gone. French bases closed, airspace restricted, colonial flags lowered without negotiation. It wasn't just a break, it was an eviction, and it was followed by a swift geopolitical pivot. Before we continue further, tell us, are you enjoying the video? If yes, please like and share the video and subscribe to our channel to watch more videos on Black Africa. Let's continue now. Where Western powers once offered security partnerships with strings attached, strings that strangled sovereignty, Traore invited Russia to the table. But he didn't do it the way African elites used to, begging for help from a position of weakness. He did it with conditions. Russian trainers arrived not as occupiers, but as strategic allies. No base leases, no extractive contracts, no IMF loans disguised as gifts. In exchange, Burkina Faso began receiving weapons, satellite support, and intelligence tools that the West had refused to share. And this wasn't a one-country phenomenon. Almost simultaneously, Mali under Assimi Goïta and Niger under Abdourahmane Tiani echoed Traore's moves. Together, they didn't just form a joint force. They declared the Alliance of Sahel States, a bold rejection of ECOWAS, a regional bloc long seen as a Western puppet. This wasn't just geopolitical musical chairs, it was continental realignment. The Sahel had stopped being a battlefield and started becoming a bloc, sovereign, defiant, and rearmed. And it shook Washington and Paris to their core. Because for the first time since the Cold War, Africa wasn't being split. It was self-organizing. And this time, not around aid packages or elections staged for CNN soundbites, but around sovereignty, strategic interest, and survival. No more policy memos from Brussels. No more veiled threats from the Pentagon. AES meant a new calculus. You touch one, you face three. What Traore built wasn't just a movement. It was a firewall against infiltration, against betrayal, and against the kind of surgical coups the CIA once orchestrated with precision. Traore understood the first rule of revolutionary survival: control your weapons and control who wields them. He didn't just reshuffle the military hierarchy like Sankara had. He reinvented the defense structure from the dirt up. Through the Volunteers for the Defense of the Homeland, VDP, Traore nationalized local defense. The VDP aren't just soldiers. They are farmers, youth leaders, retired officers, and civilians who know the terrain and their neighbors. They are embedded in every town, every region. They answer to the people and report up the chain of a government that for once represents them. More importantly, they are loyal. Because loyalty isn't built in military academies. It's forged in trenches. Traore didn't need to buy their trust. He earned it by fighting alongside them, redistributing mining revenue to communities, and showing that his government wasn't just another regime. It was a shield. And to make sure no foreign-funded officer could stage a betrayal, he created layers of redundancy: command decentralization, intelligence filters, cross-vetted loyalty checks. There is no central node for an enemy to target, no capital-based weak point to seize. To overthrow Traore, they would need to flip an entire country, block by block, village by village. And each one would resist like it were defending its last breath. But it does not end there. There is a West's ultimate dilemma. Even if Captain Ibrahim Traore were to vanish tomorrow, in a coup, a drone strike, or a suspicious heart failure, the real threat wouldn't end. It would multiply. Because Traore's weapon isn't housed in a military barracks. It's not a missile system or an intelligence asset. His weapon is an idea, and ideas don't bleed. Traore has no offshore safety net, no luxury penthouse in the 16th arrondissement of Paris, no kids in Swiss boarding schools. He is not a pawn in a shell game of offshore wealth. This isn't Mobutu. This isn't Biya. This is a man whose political spine isn't supported by foreign embassies, but by the burning will of a people. And because of that, the usual Western playbook of bribe, isolate, blackmail, and replace is nullified. Worse still, Traore's ideology isn't new. It's resurrected. It's the ideology of Sankara reassembled from memory. It's the soul of Lumumba standing unafraid in the daylight. It's the anger of a young African generation that watched the world eliminate Gaddafi mercilessly and learned. The slogans are the same: Pan-Africanism, dignity, sovereignty, but the delivery system has changed. The West thought it could bury revolutionary ideology in academic footnotes, but Traore turned it into a viral movement, and the timing couldn't be worse for the empire. Because this idea doesn't just live in Ouagadougou, it pulses in Mali's youth, it chants in Nigeria's streets, it burns in South Africa's student halls, it takes flight in the Jamaican diaspora, it trends in hashtags, in music, and in encrypted chats. It crosses borders faster than diplomacy and louder than press releases. You can't drone a worldview. And here lies the true panic for Washington, Paris, and London: the notion that the most powerful resistance in Africa today doesn't need their aid, their language, or their permission. It only needs conviction. Now you see, the West perfected a system, a cold, efficient one. Identify, isolate, assassinate, installation. They have run it like a factory across Latin America, the Middle East, and Africa for half a century. But Traore didn't fall into the system. He broke it. He identified them. He exposed their narratives before they could spin them. He isolated them, kicking out diplomats, mining barons, and military advisors. And now he's not installing a puppet. He's installing a new operating system, one written in the language of revolutionary memory and enforced by the will of the people. So ask yourself honestly, is the West afraid of Traore, the individual, or of the contagion he has unleashed? Because what began as a coup has metastasized into a continental reckoning. Burkina Faso is no longer seen as the underdog. It's the nucleus, the blueprint, the call to arms. Every protest now echoes his words. Every young African who reads Sankara's speeches today is one step closer to not fearing the empire. And this time, the people aren't chanting democracy. They are whispering something the West hoped was extinct: homeland or death. And here's the part that Washington can't airstrike away. This time, they mean it. What do you think? Was it easier for the West to get rid of Gaddafi than it is for Traore? Isn't it true that eliminating Traore when the entire African public stands with him becomes an impossible feat? In the comment section below, share your thoughts on what Africa should do to ensure the West never dare to touch its beloved and loyal leaders. Do you want to watch more videos like this one? If yes, subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon next to it. We bring videos on Black Africa, its history, rich arts and culture, and things the world should know about. Thanks for watching, and until the next video, stay tuned.